starts out. So the initial segment is the image is a new image, just to show you the size. It's 8.5 by 11, 300. It's horizontal, so when you go into the new document, that's where it'll start you off at. But again, it's just a texture on a type layer over the top and the background layer. So just on the background layer, I'll just do it again here where it's a new layer, and it's using the same idea of the gradient. So when you're clicking on the gradient, it's using the copper only because it gives a quick selection of shading. It's not that you'll use it, but just zooming out of this a little bit and dragging corner to corner creates the values that you have. Depending on how tight you make it or how far apart you make it is up to you. You'll experiment with it. And under this layer that is here, you're adding a filter, and when you take a look at it, see that it has a section called noise and add noise, and what that is just a texture that comes over the top of it. This is plus and minus, showing you 100% of the image so that you can see it at 50%, 100%, building it up that way. And if it'll be set to this color, showing you a little bit of the RGB color scheme that's in there. So monochromatic will just keep it set up that way. So it's just kind of getting that initial selection. So once you see it, click OK, and then the next filter that you do when you take a look is going to be a section in there under motion blur. So here's the blur, and here's motion blur. You see you have all different options, but motion is the one that they're taking a look at. And the default, when you take a look at it up close, it just kind of streaks through this part and gives you this highlighted image of the distance depending on how low or far you do it, so you can see it doesn't take it too far. But they have it at 54, I think, so it gives it that brushed metal look to it. Clicking OK, and now you have this texture to work with, kind of this ingrained. And then in order to change the color, you have image adjust hue saturation, and as long as colorize is there, it gives you the hue, which is the color. Saturation is the intensity of the color. Desaturation we've done before. Lightness is the value, so the overall too light or too dark on this. So you can kind of sit there. And you can, if you adjust these, you can hold Option and reset them to their default as they came across. So this can be kind of a copper. I'll change this one to make it a little more of a greener copper, just kind of darken it like that. And so that gives you that image. Okay, so that's kind of the beginning part. And then when you go back in, it's having you add some text. So again, the text tool is set to black. Here's the text tool. I have it at Helvetica Bold. Okay, I'll change this to 72 just to make it large enough. When I click, the piece comes through, so depending on height, tool art, and design. So again, this is the text. It's a oblique, which is an italicized type. Under Window, Character, when this panel pops open, it gives me these options too. Paragraph, centered. The space between the lines of type is the leading, so you can adjust it from here. You can increase with the arrow and it'll adjust it. You can also grab the icon from here and it'll let you click on it to bring that across. So it's kind of giving you those pieces. Okay. But if you just want to kind of have a bold texture, you have to hit return and set that up for that. And again, once you have the transform keys, you can click on or off or free transform it. Lets you adjust this. So I'll just make this a little bigger and place it there. Okay. The space between the lines is the tracking or kerning. It's called two different things, but when I go back to character, leave the mouse over here, it'll tell me it's the tracking. So I can decrease that a little bit. I can also take the text tool and click inside here, use the option to increase just like an Illustrator. So you can adjust that part. So if you want them touching, you can, kind of using it. Kind of like the logo there for that. Okay. So that gives you the text. So with the texture, you're just going to duplicate the texture, drag this in the stacking order right above the type, And in between these two layers, you're going to use it as what they call a clipping mask, one above the other. And just by holding the Option key down, lets you select that. Now you can't see it, only because the background's there, but if I turn that off, you can see that the text is there. It's not until we take the text layer, make sure you have that layer highlighted, double click on it to get the layer styles, and now when I click on Bevel and Emboss, it'll emboss itself and show that foreground to it. So you can kind of get a little bit closer to this. So the Bevel Emboss, you have the gloss contour. This is a contour you can start to adjust things, take a look at some of the different options that are there. But try to experiment with the layer styles. Whichever one that you click on will show you all the different pieces that are there. Drop shadow gives you a little bit of a darker shadow. Drop shadow is the one that allows you to actually click on the page and see what's happening and adjust it right from there. So to kind of emphasize the piece there. So it's kind of a simple section and lets you get set up from there. Okay.